Hey everyone, Simon here. Today's guest is lead singer of the band Sideshow Annie, Gillian Taylor-Reynolds, and this is the Music Instinct. This episode is coming to you from Song Cave Studios in the heart of the Blue Mountains, New South Wales, Australia. Check the description for more info. Shout out to Lenovo for their excellent Creator Series laptops and Rode microphones for the amazing Wireless Go systems. So good to be back at Song Cave Studios. So, lead singer of Sideshow Annie,
Yes.
Rag and Bone,
Yes.
songwriter extraordinaire, and voice actor, Gillian
yes,
Taylor-Reynolds.
Hi.
Thank you for being on the show. It's so glad to have you back.
Me. It's nice to see you.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It has. We've even played together.
We have,
We
disclosure.
have.
We've been on stage together.
We have had a
Yeah,
great time. Went to Melbourne.
Melbourne. I didn't even remember that. You're right. We did. I was thinking
we
Winter
did.
Magic Festivals, but
No, we played at the Esty.
We did. That's
We
right.
did.
That was my first time playing in Melbourne.
Was it?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 It might have been mine too. Time goes on.
It was a great old time. Yeah, that was a while
fun.
back too.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So, diving straight in. So, usual question on the show: where do you think your music instincts come from, and can you think of an early music memory?
I guess I always loved music because, especially being an only child, I think the radio is my best friend, you know, and my, later on, my stereo downstairs in the basement, my parents put it down there because they didn't love all of my music as I progressed. But yeah, you know, my mum and dad, were always into music. Both my parents are great singers. My mum actually, at one stage sang in a choir with Dave Brubeck. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, in Hawaii. She had a wonderful voice. And my dad too, but he was a little more shy. And, you know, they introduced me to musicals. Like, I just loved, you know, Liza Minnelli, all of those kind of, you know, we used to watch them on TV because when I was growing up, you didn't have the TV like you have now.
No, not at all, yeah.
You know, so we used to watch those things. And Sunday nights, always, from the time I can remember, my parents would have the stereo on. And after dinner, my mum always made a roast dinner on a Sunday. And after dinner, we'd often sit around, always sit around the record player and just play music. Anything from like Cleo Lane. I think the hardest rock my parents went was kind of the Beatles. And, you know, and Mum taught me how to sing and we used to harmonize together. And it was just, I think those are my first real memories. Yeah.
I mean, it was entertainment back then with your family. I mean, I remember listening to records with my mother and my grandfather playing piano at Christmas. It was something you did. It was part of a family bonding and union.
Exactly.
You did.
And I think that's why people of our generation, when we hear songs, I don't know about so much now, but when we hear songs, it immediately takes me to a place. Like I can hear a song and think of my mom and dad lighting the fire. I mean, I grew up a lot of my life in Canada, so it was cold. A lot of it was cold. And, you know, lighting a fire and sitting around and listening and singing along to music. And both my parents were born, you know, like during World War II in London. And, you know, so it was always about family parties. And, you know, so, and they've told me the most wonderful stories of those kind of things. Like, it was a hard time. Yeah. But it was also a fun time. Okay. I think much more fun than what we're going through now.
Yes, yeah.
Not as lonely. Like, neighbors knew each other, got together, and music brought them together. Everybody sang. Yeah. Whether you were great or whether you were bad, it didn't matter. It was just about having fun.
Well, music was always, I mean, from tribal roots. I mean, it was community. As storytelling, it's community. It's bringing people together. And
Absolutely.
I think maybe in the West we've lost a little essence of some of that. I mean, it's there in concerts and going out and doing things together. But that family union of bonding over music where, it's not a who can sing, who can't. It's actually something you share, a shared experience.
Exactly.
Is not always...
And dancing.
And
People
dancing
used
as well.
to dance at parties, you know, house parties. I mean, I remember going back to England to visit my grandparents and stuff, and as soon as we kind of arrived, within 2 days of us arriving, and once we were over jet lag, the family had a party. And everybody came, and from both sides of the family, and dancing. My parents were great dancers. Both of them were great, like rock and roll, jive, ballroom.
Okay.
They met at a ballroom, like going to ballroom dancing.
Right, okay.
So, you know, so I just remember everybody, and that's kind of gone now, that I think.
Swipe left, swipe right's a little bit different than I pick that person over there on the other side of the room.
Yeah, exactly.
For dancing,
exactly.
yeah, you'll be my partner.
Yeah, exactly. and just, and maybe in some ways the world has put fear into us about, you know, stranger danger and all that kind of stuff, bonding as humans. You know, I think, I think our media has a lot to do with that. You know? So, you know, and sure, there are a lot of weirdos out there, but there's always been weirdos.
There always has been, yeah.
I mean, look back to Romans. I mean, hello.
Yep.
So, you know.
Now you've got a phone, you can find people easier than you ever could. So,
but it doesn't have the same emotion.
No, I know.
As actually talking. Anyway, off the subject.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so with singing parents, dancing parents, is that something they pursued? I mean, what?
No.
No. So where's the leap for you to go from an appreciation of music to becoming an artist, effectively?
Good question. It was my dream, always. But unfortunately, I suffered with major insecurities. You know, I was kind of an awkward kid. We moved around a lot, so I was always the new kid.
You've lived in a lot of countries, haven't you?
Yeah, a lot. And not just countries, states, provinces. So we were always moving. So and you know, I have this, and it's funny, I look at report cards from when I was, you know, my mum kept a lot of that stuff. God knows why. And you know, and it says Gillian is a wonderful story writer. Gillian is, you know, great at English, but she has this great fear of standing up and letting it out, reading in front of, you know. But as I said, I was bullied a lot. I was, an only child, so maybe awkward with other kids because I was around so many adults. I found it hard to kind of fit in with kids.
Right.
So I really didn't start this until I was, gosh, it sounds like a Marianne Faithfull song, but at the age of 37.
Wow.
So, so I really, meeting Elliot was an amazing thing for me.
So what led up to that before? Because obviously you were singing. I mean, it's just something you did in private?
I was singing. I used to run karaoke's.
Right, okay. So that was earlier?
Yeah. So
okay.
I ran karaoke. I was in a band for a little while. I do like 2 songs and I sing backup. But to actually go out there and perform my own stuff,
right?
No.
Okay.
Like I remember taking some song ideas to some friends, and it was kind of like, you know, it's you know, it's not what we want to do, and so it kind of throws you when you, like, you know, so I just stopped, and then I just started singing a melody kind of to Elliot and said, I've got this idea. Because that's how we met. Elliot came along to a karaoke and at the Lewisham Hotel. And and came up and said, do you want to write a song with me? And I said, I've never really done original stuff.
Right.
So he kind of, so it took us a few months before we actually got together. And then it took about, you know, a few months before I had the courage to actually say, this is my idea, and, you know, and he was amazing. He just said, that's fantastic. You know, let's do something with that. And it just kind of went from there.
Do you remember that song? Is it something?
Yeah, Lost for Words was the name.
Lost for Words, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that was the first song we wrote.
It's still
together.
Around, still playing?
Yeah. It's on our first album, and I still play it, and I don't really listen to my
No, I know that feeling. Yeah, you do it, you do all the work, and then I don't want to listen to it for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of funny like that. So I love performing them still.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'll say, oh, we should do such and such. And I go, oh, wow, I haven't thought of that song for, 10 years. But yeah, it's still there. I mean, I could still sing it, it's still in my head when you write it. It's, so he was really encouraging. And he was an amazing support for me. I'd never met anyone like that before who'd kind of pushed me.
Could open that, let you open that up.
I mean, my parents were of the generation where artists don't, it's not a living.
It's a hobby, yeah.
It's a hobby. And even then, they really didn't encourage me to have it as a hobby. You know, I mean, I remember the careers people used to come, you know, and I think the only thing they ever talked about was kind of being an airline hostess, a nurse, or or join the forces. You know, so there wasn't a lot of, and I think that's why the kids now have so much. They're so lucky. Like, they're not lucky in the fact that there's not a lot of jobs around, of course.
Yeah.
But lucky in the fact that there's so much on offer, like radio school and knowing about cameras. And we were never, you never really knew what went on behind the scenes.
No, you couldn't afford it.
You only saw like Sonny and Cher on a Sunday, or you never knew all those other things were available to do.
Yes, there's so many creative jobs now that are a real thing. Graphic artists, web design, everything. I mean, that was just, you can be creative and
Exactly. And you can still work.
Yes.
Like, you can be creative and you can still get a job. Like, there's always camera works or gaffers but we never heard about any of those things.
No. I mean, now there's so much independent film. I mean, you can do your own as well. There's a lot more opportunity to get in there and try something. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, you just thought a concert magically came to life.
Like Fred Astaire on the television, he's dancing around.
That's it. That
just happened,
So, you know, as I said, it just wasn't discussed. It wasn't, like producers behind radio and, you know, just things like that, you know. I mean, even like when I worked for Triple J for a while, you know, I used to love collecting the CDs for the shows in the morning. And, you know, and you just think the hottest 100 just happens at the big day out, but those CDs all have to be put in a box and take CDs in those days. Not now. Now it's all like on the computer, but you know, at that time. So, you know, there's just so many things to do. Yeah. If you want to do it.
Okay.
You know?
So thinking back to the beginning of that writing process with Elliot and then to where you've transformed to now, can you describe how the songwriting process works for you? Do you have a system? Is it vary? How does the thought come to your mind? How does it transform?
Usually at the most ungodly hour, 2:30 in the morning, usually, when I'm asleep.
Are you up? No, you're asleep.
I tend to wake up and then something's in my head. I don't know why I don't dream like I used to. I used to dream all the time. But that's kind of stopped. But something pushes in my head. Usually that or the shower. At the most unopportune times when you have to jump out of the shower and quickly find your phone soaking wet and then record it before you forget it. And or in the morning, like go down to the cold laundry room or in here if it's not locked and I don't have to find his keys and record something.
Put it down.
You know, so usually freezing cold. And usually it's a melody and the words. I don't know why.
Right,
usually both come together. And it's very strange. I'm like you. I've seen you dance. You're a very good dancer. But like you, I love to dance. And I can see the choreography in my head.
So what are you seeing? What exactly are you seeing?
Just movements. Like,
so
I know
like a Fred Astaire twisting his hand?
Yeah, maybe. It depends on the music. It just
Okay.
depends. But I can actually... So it's like I can see the video clip of the song as I'm writing the song.
Right.
And as weird as that sounds...
And does that give you direction where to go next in the song? Yeah. It kind of steps it out for you, like watching your own movie.
Kind of. It's like a movie in the brain. It's very strange. Maybe they should put me away. But so that's usually how it comes. But I love to write poetry as well, like lyrics. So quite often, if we have, we'll get together and have writing sessions with other friends and musicians and the band. And Elliot will say, oh, have you got lyrics? Have you got some ideas for this? And I'll sometimes go through my book and see what fits. And then other times I might just write it when I hear the melody. Like something will just take me and a vision will come and I'll go, oh, what about? And the boys usually go, yeah, that's great, and I just run away with it. So. And
do you ever hear any of the music or is it the melody and the words?
Oh, I can hear the music. Like I can say to Elliot, oh, this is what I hear is the guitar solo. And I can hum and sing him a guitar solo. And you go, okay, do that again. and he's amazing.
He's good enough to pick it up.
He's amazing.
Yeah, I'd spend 3 hours trying to figure out what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, whereas Elliot will just go, oh, okay, and he'll go somewhere, and I'll go, yeah, that's it, but we need a different guitar. It needs to be, like, I can hear the sound I want, and I guess 98% of the time he agrees with me on what I'm trying to get, because, I mean, every guitar has it's like a different voice, you know, so I'll say to him, and, you know, I didn't know a lot about guitars until I met Elliot, and I know
they're everywhere, they're all around the room now.
But it's amazing how every single one has this great, so now I can actually say, oh, on this one I'd really like a Telly, or on this one I'd really like the sound of the Gibson, or, you know, whether it be like an old Gibby or the Les Paul, or, you know, it's a little bit sweeter. So I can actually, and I think it's kind of cool, like, to actually be able to hear which guitar it's going to.
It is. I mean, they have their own colour. That's why us crazy guitarists constantly buy them and collect them, because
but they
are
have
their own thing.
Colour, and they do bring a whole different vibe to a song.
There's appropriate time for them in each spot. Yeah,
definitely. So people can say, oh, why would you have so many? But they all have their own voice. It's like a choir. So it's quite cool.
And do you hear the beat? That's something I always find interesting. Yeah.
I love the beat. Yeah. Like the song that I just wrote, I did with the beat. I didn't do it. It was a completely different process this time. I could hear the beat, and I said to him, I want a drum beat, because I can hear. And so Elliot kind of sat with me, and I went through his library, because, you know, I play drums, but not great.
Yeah.
Like, I'm no Bonham. I try real hard. I watch Bonham on the screen and go, here we go. And it's a great way to get out your angst if you're not a boxer. You know, good drum kit. So we went through the library, and you know, he's trying to teach me how to use the desk, and it's a slow process. Yeah. It's like driving a plane. Yeah. But
you're out the front of the stage, though. You're
carrying
that role. Yeah, it's interesting to tap into it.
So he him and I sat here, and he let me go through all the and this song I wrote with just the beat, and then kind of told him what to do for once, which was kind of cool. So it doesn't happen very often.
No, it's nice to be driving.
It is. Yeah, because you know, usually he's recording me and you know, saying, you know, why don't you try a harmony behind this? Or why don't you? So it was kind of nice to drive it this time.
And do you find it different, obviously, writing your own song versus him saying here's a melody to a song I've written, which is almost your own karaoke version of someone else's song?
A lot of the time, I think Elle and I are pretty equal in what we bring to the table. Like, I mean, I can walk into a band rehearsal and say, hey guys, I have this idea, and I can stand in the middle and just sing my idea, and the boys will just start working. It
kind of forms around you.
So I think we're both as equal about bringing stuff to the table. The only difference is I can't actually sit and play it. I can just sing it. And so we pretty much work 50-50, I think.
Which is great.
Yeah, and a lot of the time on royalties we give each other 50-50 because we can't be bothered finding
No, I mean, so, like, who wants to remember his percentage?
Who wants to argue about it, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's probably a better way to go.
Yeah, better way to go. Yeah. Well, that's a great segue into a song. We should have a listen to something. So before we do that, though, you've got to give me a setup. So what are we going to listen to, and what's the story behind this song?
The song is called Woman. I was asked to submit a song for a project, and they said it I didn't get given a lot of just modern.
Okay, this is work through the studio, through Songcave.
Not from the studio. This is like for a friend overseas.
Oh, okay,
so
great.
Just modern, could be rap, rock, or pop, and that was pretty much it. So I did my best. But it's called Woman, and it's fairly modern, especially for me. Very different than Sideshow Annie.
Right.
Not that Sideshow Annie isn't modern, but just not as rock orientated, not as bluesy rock orientated. No, it's more of a pop, I think, track.
So is this something that came from reading that brief, or is it something you had as an idea before?
No.
Yeah.
Didn't have it as an idea.
Straight off the page.
It was straight off a brief.
Yeah.
So I like doing that. I like pushing myself. I like, I've had a woman ring up at 8 a.m. and say, we need a track. And it needs to be like punk, or it needs to be something. And I mean, I've just recorded in my pajamas and had it to her by 12 o'clock that afternoon. So I like going off briefs. I think if I'd been a kid and they could have said to me, what would you like to, I would have loved to have been a jingle writer.
Okay.
For advertising.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that would have been...
It's an art, yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'd, like, be good at that, you know? I like briefs. I like to work to deadline.
Yep.
So I like challenging myself to see if I can actually do that.
Great.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
We should have a listen.
Okay.
I'm a woman, raise my power. I'm a woman, hear me roar. I kick off my high heel shoes and I'll dance you off the floor. I'm a woman, raise my power.
All right. So that was Woman.
What?
What's the first thing that comes to your head after you hear the song?
Proud.
Proud. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great song. Great chorus.
Thank you.
Very catchy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm at a stage in my life, I think, where I just love doing what I do. And, you know, I hope people like it. I mean, I've sent it to about 20 girlfriends and they like it. So, I think when you get to a certain age, you know, you just, it's the enjoyment. It's the process of it. It's not about wanting to be famous or wanting, it's got nothing to do with any of that. Like, I think being famous would be awful.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't read magazines. I don't give in to the paparazzi. But I just think having somebody there to criticize, put you down, if you go shopping and you're not wearing makeup, or if you've lost weight and, you know what I mean, or if you've gained weight or whatever, it would just be awful to constantly be in the line of people's ridicule 24/7.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
I would hate that.
Yeah.
So I'm just at a place where I just do it because I love it. And I perform because I love it. And the people who come to see us and have a great time and dance and sing along, people singing to songs that I've written.
Yeah, that's a magical thing.
Oh, it's the best thing ever. And it doesn't matter if there's 5 of them or 40,000 of them. It's just such an incredible place to be. So I'm just grateful that I do and make a living out of something that I love.
That you love, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I hear empowerment in that song, all through that song.
Oh,
you just described that.
thank
I mean,
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
That really sounds where it's coming from.
Yeah,
so,
it's just it's a good place. You know? I mean, I'm getting on, and I feel good about that too. I'm not gonna, you know, because I'm not 27. I'm not gonna get a record deal. Like, I'm just so far out of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, that's not what I do it at all.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be 27 again.
And chasing
it was an awful time.
The major record deal, all that stuff.
Well, I wasn't doing music then. So I've never really chased the record deal. I mean, by the time I started, I was 37. So that's gone. So, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and I've totally embraced that.
Yep.
Like, it's not, and I think it's sad that the music industry is about youth and about, it should be about talent. And it should be about people who you enjoy and people who can sing and people who can play and people, it shouldn't be about being beautiful. And I mean, you know, the women I look up to in music, they weren't stunning women. They were powerful women. They had balls and not all of them. I mean, you know, some of them were great jazz singers and everything, but rock women, it wasn't about beauty. It was about talent and getting out there and showing people what you got. And, you know, and that's kind of gone too. And again, because of everything being, you know, like botched, you know. Like,
I know what you're talking about, the TV show.
Beauty.
Yeah.
And beauty should also come from the inside.
Yes,
So you know, it's not about being superficial. So.
Especially when music, it's an expression of emotion. It's not really about the outside. It's about the storytelling, the time capsule. It's a moment in time of something you're expressing. It really doesn't come with a package. It is what it is, and it's to be enjoyed.
And again, you're never gonna appeal to everybody's musical what they're into, so you've got to do it because you love it. That's got to be first and foremost.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And and you hope that the people who like you and who buy your albums and buy your music like it too. So that's pretty much all I work for.
They're out there.
Thank you.
So it is a departure from obviously the Sideshow Annie, but I still hear obviously your characters all over there, the empowerment, that strong female rock singing voice is still in there. Obviously travelling around, having music as kind of that language you've had in all those places you've lived as the new kid. Is there something that sort of carried through that career that you think now you express through the song? Anything coming from those locations that sort of influenced your sound?
I never really thought about that. No. Yeah, probably. I mean, I have a lot of memories. My family, my mum's always shocked about how good my memory is. Elliot's always shocked about how good my memory is. I can still remember our apartment from when I'm a year old,
wow.
And how the furniture was. And my mother would say, oh my goodness, I forgot about that, So, and certainly moving around a lot, seeing a lot, living in places like Los Angeles, which is just mind-blowing and a major city, and I went to Beverly Hills High for a while and couldn't wait to get out. So I moved to the seediest part of LA and loved every minute of it. So and then living in places like Point Roberts, Washington State, which 250 people on a tiny peninsula that really should belong to Canada, but America won't give it up. So I used to get picked up from school, for school in the mornings from my house. And then we used to have to drive through 2 borders every morning to go to school.
Just to go to school?
Yeah,
wow.
So we used to have to drive through the American border to Canada, through Canada, and then back over to the American border just to get to school. So it was crazy. And I remember those things. And I remember the smells. And I wrote a song recently about traveling with my dad.
That's great.
It hasn't come out yet.
Yeah,
It's on the next album, but about traveling with him. He used to have my mum used to have a 71 Dodge Charger, very cramped in the back with the 3 little windows that you used to look out of. And my dad had a similar car, which was a Mercury Cougar. So, these little tiny windows with a soft top that you used to stare at. But we drove everywhere. So, from one side of the States to the other, and my dad's favorite holidays were just taking trips and not knowing where you're going.
Yeah, okay.
So, whether it's through the Rocky Mountains or, listening to all 3 8 tracks that we had in the car. So, Johnny Cash, the best of the 50s, and Jim Croce were the 3 I remember the most.
Wow.
So, yeah. I think we had a Sinatra one eventually. But, so and those songs immediately take me back. So I write stuff about that. Yeah, about memories and things that made me happy, things that made you sad, things that, arguments. No.
Yeah.
Sorry,
things we can all relate to.
Yeah. So, just, it's always got to come from the heart.
Yeah.
I think, writing songs comes from the heart.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing catalogue there to draw stories from and inspiration.
Yeah. But I've been here a long time now.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Love to share. Yeah. Okay. So changing tact, voice acting. Where's that come from? Is music related? Will it come first? Did one lead to the other?
I'll be honest. Both I was born in England. Both my parents are British. So as a kid, again, being an only child, making your own fun. I used to love watching I still do, 1930s movies. All these fabulous actresses like Lauren Bacall and Marilyn Monroe and, as I said, Liza Minnelli. So I think I did my first Liza Minnelli impression when I was, quite young, and with the hat and the chair and the, the singing. And and I just even remember, like, I think I was probably about 6 or 7, and I started doing my Western impressions, you know. So I used to impersonate people who I was inspired by, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, so and then my dad is really good at doing accents. Like, he can, you know, do all of Shakespeare and you know, Richard Burton, you know, that beautiful English accent, you know. And so I just used to listen, and I guess got good at it.
Mm.
So so I used to sing like Dolly Parton on the bus, and, you know, on the school bus, and things like that. And you know, because we moved around a lot, I used to pick up on accents. So, you know, so and of course both my mum and dad talk like that. So, and in fact, I don't think I've told anyone this. My flatmates sort of known in LA. When I was trying to get a job, because I took a proficiency test and graduated. I didn't want to wear one of those funny little hats. I really didn't know anybody at school. So I graduated and left high school early. And kind of moved out. You know, I was being a rebellious teenager. Imagine that. and moved out. And I was having trouble getting a job. And I rang for a receptionist come PA assistant job and in LA. And for some stupid reason, I thought, you know, my mum's always had really good jobs. And Americans love an accent. So I rang up and I talked like that, you know, and I said, oh, you know, and they immediately took me in for an interview. And of course I got the job. But for a year, I had to talk like that every time I went to work. And then I'd come home and my flatmates would go, turn it off, would you?
Yeah.
Like, I'd forget where I was. So I'd have to think about it on the bus. It became quite difficult. But, you know, I paid the rent. So
Wow.
so there you go. So yeah. So it does come in handy.
Yeah.
So, you know, getting into restaurants, you know, and things like that. If you have an accent, they just seem to like it, and they go, where are you from? You know, and then you're in. So
I'm sure Mum and Dad didn't think doing voices was a real job either.
No,
so
not at all.
How did it become something you do? Where's...
You know, I gave it up for a long, long time, but in the 80s, I joined an agency. Somebody talked me into joining an agency. It was called Word of Mouth, and it was in Glebe. And so they got me quite a bit of work, like for TDK, for Qantas, Ansett.
Wow.
And things like that. So I was there was actually a TDK ad with a beautiful, you know, beautiful black woman dancing in the sky, like as a, what do you call it? Astronaut, I guess, or space woman, I'm not sure. She was just stunning. It looked a bit like Grace Jones. And they called me in and asked me to do her voice. I've never known why. Maybe she didn't speak English, I don't know. But she was just stunning. And so I had to go in, and I was the Peace, Love and Mung Beans girl.
I'm old enough to remember that.
Yeah, so that's where that kind of came from. That was the first I'd ever heard of Peace, Love and Mung Beans, and now it's written quite often and people seem to use it. But yeah, so I was her voice during that. And then I did Mattel, like, you know, like talking like Barbie and that kind of thing, you know. So, so great fun. And just recently I was asked to do a few projects, and so I'm just getting back into it.
Amazing.
Just did another voice reel, and and I'm going to do a singing voice reel as well, like taking off the artists that I do it on stage sometimes. Yeah. Like I'll sing a Dolly Parton song, or, you know, if somebody yells out, you know.
Imitating them.
So don't do it a lot, but I sometimes.
Just for fun.
Yeah, just for fun. Everything's fun.
Yeah, that's
so, you
great.
know, so.
You've really put that voice to use. It's been fantastic. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think the thing that turned me off was they called me and asked me to have a part in Chances, which was a soap.
Oh, that racing TV.
Very
I know
very cheesy.
Yeah.
And I was told that in some of the scenes I'd have to, you know, get nude, and that's just not me.
No.
That wasn't me then, you know. Not me now for sure. I had a much better figure then, but yeah. So no, so yeah, and I just kind of, because I turned that down as an audition, yeah. But I had an audition at one stage. I was down to the last 3 for the Cartoon Connection.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I went along for that, and there was like hundreds of girls, and I thought, so I was chosen for the last 3, but I kind of got out of it. Ended up with somebody who didn't like me being in the spotlight, and you know, you make those.
Yeah.
You take those roads in your life, and you think, why did I do that? But there's a reason for everything.
Yeah, look where you are now.
Can't look back. Yeah, can't have regrets.
It's still there. It's a skill. It's amazing, but it's
That's it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you, Gillian. So,
thank you.
What's next for Sideshow Annie? What's next for you? Obviously, the song "Woman's" out there, but what comes next?
Writing a new album.
New album?
As I said, yeah, writing a new album with Sideshow Annie. Looking forward to some gigs.
Coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just starting to open up again.
That's just crazy. So fingers crossed.
Back to
normal. So but just using this time to write and have fun, and just scoping out into other areas.
New things like that. Great. All right. So before we finish up, we've got to finish with a quick quiz. Quiz.
Ooh.
So a couple of quick ones, but this should be easy. So Fender or Gibson?
Depends on the song.
Does. As we talked about before. Yeah. Being on stage or being in the studio?
Being on stage.
Yeah. That was an easy one.
They should put cardboard cutouts in a studio just so you can see to an audience, I reckon. I want to steal some of those from the football matches. Yeah.
Do you have a favourite bit of musical gear?
Ooh. I like using a Shure on stage.
Sure.
I like Sure.
Sure.
I like the feel of a Shure, and there's just something. I've had one forever now, and a Neumann in the studio is what I use. So usually, I used a different mic on this though.
Okay.
I actually used a Shure 60s type mic on this.
Wow.
So I play around.
Colour again. Yeah.
If he can collect guitars, I can collect mics.
You can collect mics, yeah. I'm sure he can use them too.
Yeah.
So who would be in your musical supergroup?
Oh my gosh.
A tough one.
Wow. Holy moly. Oh my goodness.
Bonham, maybe?
Yeah, except he's gone.
Yeah. Oh, this is fantastical.
Is like...
It can be anything. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Bonham, yeah. Bonham. If maybe Terry Bozzio.
Okay.
If we had to go with living. Gilmore,
yeah.
Elliot.
Yeah, Elliot. He'd be happy to play with Gilmore.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good supergroup.
Bass players, that would be so tough.
Yeah.
Chris Squire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a supergroup.
Yeah.
Settle.
John Waters, love his playing.
Yep.
But I there's so many great bass players. I mean, Harry Bruce, Australian. I think he's one of the most legendary Australian bass players, and he's actually recorded here. So
amazing.
So don't know who the backing vocals would be. There's hundreds of them.
Yeah, there's enough.
I just love to sing with all those women, so I could, or men. So
yeah.
So
great. And then to finish up, favourite musical decade.
I love the 60s.
60s.
Yeah, I love the 60s. I love the. Well, they were clean, they were dirty, they were everything.
Everything.
Yeah, they were everything. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Gillian, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.
Okay. Look forward to it. Take care.